This is a cartouche that I made in one of my history classes studying ancient Egypt, and I'm going to show you how I did it. First of all, I gave them a cartouche sample sheet, and look at the link below to get one of these. And before we started with the clay, we took ink pads and we took our stamps, and you do need this, something like this. I have some stamp kits with the hieroglyphs and the symbols in them. So I had 2 sets for a class of 14 kids, and they shared. So, because not everyone needs every stamp at the same time. But before we started class, I gave them a sheet that translated all the sounds in all the hieroglyph letters or symbols. And they figured out before we ever started to work with clay what their name was with these symbols, and they stamped it out on this sheet, and then they could take that home right away and they had their name. This way too, if they've got a long name, they understand that they've got to make it shorter or it's not going to fit, or they need to make their clay longer, and they can practice before we actually work with the clay. Then I gave them this index card that I had traced with a Sharpie, this shape, and what happens when you do that is the clay, when you roll it out on there, is going to have that Sharpie mark on the bottom, and then you can trim it, and makes it a lot easier. Now this is the kind of clay I used. I used this. It's a clay that bakes in the oven. And for this particular clay, it seemed to me that it came in these little strips. And it seemed to me about 4 of these little strips made one of these shapes. So I took that clay and I rolled it out. Now, your kids have to have something to roll it with. And what I did is I went to my local hardware store and I got this PVC pipe, and I had it cut into small lengths, and it cost not very much money at all, and then everyone had a rolling pin. Okay, so I finished rolling out my clay, and I take it off, and like I said before, that Sharpie, I don't know if you can see it in the video, but it gives me the shape of the cartouche. So I take a plastic knife, had one for every kid, and I just cut out that shape. Now I'm working on a kitchen counter, but if you're working on a table or something like that, you're going to want to protect it because this clay will stain the table. So just think about that. Now you take your leftover clay and you just roll it in between your hands. You want a nice long string of clay. Alright, so I rolled my clay into this nice long string or rope, and now I'm going to just wrap that rope around my cartouche like this, pressing it to the side and kind of clipping it where you need, pressing it in, and there I've got my nice shape. Now I have to make the little claws at the bottom. So all I do is I clip off a little bit more of that clay, so I've got a piece about that long, put that at the bottom, and then I have 4 toes here. So I cut off about that much for 4 toes, 4 little pieces just like that, and I wrap them around. Actually, these are too big. I wrap them around my branch here, and this creates my little claw effect. Now, before I'm done, I take these stamps, and of course I don't have to use a stamp pad because that's not the point. And I use my pattern that I made before with a stamp pad, and I make my name just like I did before, but this time I don't care about color because I'm going to paint this after all is said and done. So I stamp in my name, and I follow this so I don't make any mistakes. There, it's done. Now, put it on a cookie sheet, bake it like it says in the directions, and as soon as it hardens and you're comfortable with that, maybe wait a day or 2, all you do is spray paint it and you're done. You have a cartouche.